All right, everybody, what's up? What's up? Welcome to the daily live stream. Yes, I know we have been off for a couple days. Some of you guys know because the last morning stream we did, that was due to my wedding anniversary and me and my wife just celebrating a little bit. So I was off for a couple days. Also, we've been looking at properties and it's been a lot going on. But nonetheless, I've also been getting some things together over here on our end regarding the channel. So thank you guys for your patience. Once again, like I said, daily live streams will happen every single day. But if there's ever any business or family things going on, that's when you guys will see me take a break. And I got a couple of other things coming. Well, let me just say returning to the channel to help with the daily live streams as well. So shout out to you guys for stopping by. I still see you guys watching on the days we don't post, which that's exactly what we want. So I appreciate you guys. And yeah, welcome to the daily live stream. Hit that like button as you come in. Make sure that you say where you're watching from. Be interactive in the chat because we appreciate that over here. Be respectful in the chat. I don't censor you guys or kick you guys out. I just ask that you respect all moderators, subscribers, and supporters. And with that being said, we got a couple things to jump right into. So last time we was on a couple days ago, I think it was Wednesday, we were talking about the Iran war update. Since then, there's been some more news. Trump has basically said that, I guess we could say it's safe to say he talked about bombing Iran into submission, right? Either surrender or there'll be a guaranteed death, which I thought was interesting. Let's go right here. So we got that to look at. Let's see if it comes up in here. Yep. That's breaking today. Trump says today Iran will be hit very hard. Trump warns Iran military surrender or face guaranteed death. We'll take a look at those two things. I was super excited to see this. Aaron Page finally got wind of it. That's why James Talarico's name is in the title. It says, this dangerous Christian, and he has it in quotations, leader will sadly lead many astray. I said, yep. I've been talking about this guy, so the reason why I'm happy Aaron caught it is because Aaron's channel is bigger than mine. So he has a wider audience that'll start to see these videos, and I'm happy about that. So far, he has 9.8K views on it. I started introducing James Talarico probably about a year or so ago on the live stream, and the first time I introduced him to you guys, it was through via sermon. And yes, while he is from the Presbyterian Church, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that church specifically, I'm just saying him, you know, I have listened to him speak and try to exegete and break down scripture, and I just think he does he's problematic. Let's just say that. He does a poor job at exegeting scripture nonetheless, but he is problematic because just the way he twists and turns things, and it's kind of like if you don't really understand scripture or the Bible, you go look at this guy like he's some type of savior. And I can tell you right now on his Facebook post, you already had people coming out saying things like, oh, this guy could be a modern day Moses. And I was just like, oh, my Lord, here we go. So, yeah, I'm glad Aaron Page caught that. We'll take a look at that. We got Moment at Kristi Noem Senate hearing. That likely got her fired as Secretary of Homeland Security. I think it was when they started talking about the deportation ads. I think it was like a $220 million ad campaign or something like that. Some Democrats called it the $220 million fraud. So we'll take a look at that. Then we got, again, complete destruction. Trump vows to hit Iran very hard. Anti-war protester dragged out of Senate hearing. CNN covered this. It has 1.9 million views. This was a very hard video for me to watch because they are dragging a Marine, which I think is very interesting, saying he's an anti-war protester because he's a Marine that's in his dress blues nonetheless. Yeah, this was hard for me to watch. I saw some of the comments when they say, man, you can hear them break the guy's bone in his arm, and you can. I watched it. Not only can you hear it, you can see it. This man is very strong. I'm not going to lie, watching it made me feel proud to be a Marine again. I was like Semper Fi because it's funny, man. It takes like 4 guys to take this dude down. Like, I was already laughing because he was basically tossing the 2 dudes that were trying to like detain him, right? Like, they can't even get him. Like, they have him almost on the floor, and then literally from the position of the floor, the dude stands up. And then you got 2 more come in, and they still can't even get him out just from him holding on. So it's very interesting to just see this. I thought this was terrible. I was very upset watching this, and I know that any Marine that served with me, they would be very upset by this. This is what I'm saying. Like we're not paying attention to skin color or nothing stupid like that. This is a brother in arms, and I was just disgusted, like how they treated this man. I mean, it's one thing if you don't agree with what he's saying, he could be asked to leave the courtroom, but I've seen them escort plenty of people out the courtroom without a broken arm, or without tackling them to the floor almost, or 5 people on them. And they did that to this Marine in his dress blues just because he said no one wants to fight for Israel. So I think that's interesting, right? As if he of all people doesn't have the right to say something like that when he's a decorated Marine who's been off to war a couple of times. That was probably one of the hardest videos I've watched since I've reacted to news, so we'll play that. And I didn't appreciate that one at all. Yeah, and then we have Bill O'Reilly talks a little bit about all the Epstein files being reported irresponsibly. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with President Trump. Shout out to The Independent and MS Now. We're going to talk about his warning for Iran and how they'll be bombed and hit very hard if they don't come to, complete submission. So let's jump right in. Once again, guys, hit that like button for me. And yeah, we got a couple of clips to watch, so let's jump into it.
You've got to hear about this thing. There's this new air purifier out there. It's basically a mold killer that just...
We begin this morning with breaking news in the war with Iran as it enters its second week. Overnight, the Israeli military says its fighter jets launched 230 munitions towards several military sites across Tehran. Iranian state media says some strikes hit the area surrounding the Mehrabad airport. Later today, President Trump is expected to travel to Dover Air Force Base to attend the dignified transfer of 6 U.S. service members that were killed in the war. Meanwhile, NBC is reporting that Trump has privately expressed real interest in deploying American troops on the ground inside of Iran. That report cites 2 U.S. officials, a former U.S. official and another person with knowledge of the conversations. The White House has dismissed the report as assumptions from anonymous sources. I would note that is not a denial. Yesterday, Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender." He further told Axios that it doesn't just mean a formal surrender by Iran. It could also, quote, be when they can't fight any longer because they don't have anyone or anything to fight with. Iran's president responded to that demand, saying an unconditional surrender is a dream that the U.S., quote, should take to their grave. But he also said this morning that Iran would stop attacking neighboring countries. All this comes amid growing uncertainty surrounding the motive for the war in the first place. Here are some of the shifting rationales we have all heard from the Trump administration this week. Listen to this.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties.
If Israel forced your hand to launch these strikes against Iran, did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand.
And these decisions are not made in a vacuum. They are made by the president's feeling that Iran was going to strike the United States and our assets in the region.
Iran tried to kill President Trump, and President Trump got the last laugh. If we didn't hit within 2 weeks, they would have had a nuclear weapon.
And just in the last hour, President Trump posted to Truth Social, quote, "Today, Iran will be hit very hard, exclamation point, under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior are areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time." Joining us now, John Brennan, MS Now, of people that were not.
I mean, so you have a couple of people pretty frustrated by this. Right? You have a couple people saying things like, why is his position that he's going to hit Iran so hard, and that's the only way that there could be any type of, white flag, any type of surrender, anything, is only if he bombs them into that. Well, it's based on the things that's being said about Iran, right? We know that already, right? Now we hear they were in, was it 5 to 6 days or like 2 weeks or something? of having a nuclear missile. And I was like, wow, that close after our first strike, and we were told something different. That's very interesting. So just to see this when I saw this morning come out, and this is what President Trump said, I wasn't shocked. I just said, okay, here we go. Like, now he's starting this. So you have some people saying, like, now is the United States going to be the one to send a nuke? Like, are we going to be the ones to, like, basically get rid of Iran in its entirety? Like, what does President Trump actually mean by that?
Not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. Joining us now, John Brennan, MS Now Senior National Security Intelligence Analyst and former Director of the CIA, and Vivian Salama, staff writer at The Atlantic. Director Brennan, this social post from the President of the United States, many of the quotes that I read just now in the lead up to this segment, it does not feel like there is a coherent plan in place for what militarily we are trying to do. Because if there was, this is not what we would hear from the President of the United States, I would assume.
No, I think it really looks like they're making it up as they go along, both the rationale as well as what the objectives are. I think it demonstrates the lack of forethought in terms of what the implications of engaging in these military operations would be. And so we see the expansion of the war into the Gulf. We see that the Iranians are quite defiant. And we have to remember that Iran is 10 times the size of Florida. Mm-hmm. It's an exceptionally large country with many hundreds of thousands of military and security forces that are unwilling to give up at this point. And when Trump says you can have an immunity if they give up, what immunity? I mean, a lot of these individuals are responsible for the oppressive nature of the regime in terms of what they've done to the people and the thousands upon thousands of Iranians who've been killed. So I do think that saying that it's only going to be unconditional surrender that he's going to accept is really putting the bar so high that it's unachievable at this point.
How dangerous is the fly by the hip decision making? Because I think, we can get inoculated to how Donald Trump operates. And I think the American people can sometimes just say, oh, that's how he works. That's the way that he runs the White House. How dangerous is it for the President of the United States to not seemingly have a plan?
Well, certainly it puts the men and women of the U.S. military at great risk, particularly if those reports are true that he's considering sending boots on the ground. The fact that he's gotten himself into this mess now, and he doesn't really have a way to actually de-escalate the situation and allow there be some type of stability that's going to be brought to Iran. It just demonstrates that, again, the lack of planning, the lack of strategic thought, the lack of an interagency process, right, because it clearly is Donald Trump making decisions, making policy choices, and then having the military intelligence and diplomats try to scurry behind it to try to fill in why, in fact, we're going down this road. So again, it shows that it's a haphazard approach to something very, very serious and very, very consequential.
Haphazard is a charitable way of describing it, Director Brennan. Vivian, I would keep.
So he says it's a charitable way to describe it, meaning to say the least, haphazard. And that's the way a lot of people are taking this, especially when they see President Trump's comments on how he plans to stop the war or make Iran come to some sort of a surrender. A lot of people don't like the terminology that's being used. It makes a lot of people think about a nuke, prolonged war. So there's a lot of people that are just kind of upset with the way President Trump is handling the war in itself right now. But nonetheless, we'll keep up and see how it works out. We're going to go over now to where he talks about Iran will be hit very hard, because that's him speaking. So I think he gives us slightly a clearer picture of his plans, but still it seems a little bit haphazardly. So let's go to that clip. All right, shout out to MS Now. They covered breaking. Trump says today Iran will be hit very hard.
With you on the president's social media post that was sent at 6.
Okay, I think it was that one. So let's do Trump warns Iran military. Yeah, let's do, I think it's surrender or face guaranteed death. So I did today, Iran will be hit very hard. Okay, so that's the Independent. Shout out to them.
Well, I basically bought this roof over the internet, which wasn't something I'd ever done before, but it worked.
In the country of Iran, the United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone. Launches are gone. About 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough, and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late, and we want to fight now more than they do. We've had 47 years, depending on the way you count it, but 47 years of horror with this group. And, when you see somebody walking down the street without their legs, without the arms, whose face is so badly affected and hurt, it mostly came from 95% Soleimani and Iran. And we, other presidents, lived with it. I didn't live with it. And so our people are doing a great job. Again, the greatest military anyone's seen. Thank you. Thank you very much. And yesterday, my administration announced decisive action to help keep down the oil prices, including offering political risk insurance for tankers transiting into the Gulf, as you know, pretty dangerous territory. Further action to reduce pressure on oil is imminent, and the oil seems to have pretty much stabilized. We had it very low, but I had to take this little detour, if it's okay with everybody. Scott, it's okay with you? Scott's the one who has to put up with it. He said, you have to do this now? I said, I have to do it, Scott, right? But it's been very strong, and everybody, including Scott, everybody feels we had really no choice. They were going to hit us if we didn't hit them, because they're crazy. And in the long term, the actions we're taking will dramatically increase the stability of the region and oil prices and stock markets and everything else. We set the all-time record in history with the Dow going to 50,000. So Dow is at 50,000. It was supposed to be maybe, if we were lucky, within by the end of my presidency in 4 years. And we did it in my first year. We did the S&P 500. We did that in a period of less than a year. And that was even tougher than the Dow, they said, so it wasn't going to happen. But we have a great country. We have a country that's never done this well. We've had tremendous success in so many different ways. I built the military and rebuilt it in my first term, and we're using it more than I'd like to use it, to be honest with you. But when we used it, we found out it certainly did work. When we look at Venezuela, when we look at the first attack, Midnight Hammer, in Iran, which really set the stage for what we're doing right now. It's been pretty amazing. And I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military and the police, to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. And now is the time to stand up for the Iranian people and help take back your country. You're going to have a chance after all these years to take back your country. Accept immunity. We'll give you immunity. And we'll be giving you really the right side of history, because that's what it is. So you'll be perfectly safe with total immunity, or you'll face absolutely guaranteed death. And I don't want to see that. They don't want to see it either.
Do you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now? Goldman Sachs says this new AI break.
Well, President Trump goes on record to say that he doesn't want to see that, and they don't want to see it either, right? So it sounds like he has a little bit of leeway there. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. You know, like, we're going to have to keep our ears to it, keep following it every day. We are getting updates every single day, whether it's from, I mean, we see President Trump out there. We see Pete Hegseth come out. I know General Kane was with Pete Hegseth the other day. We see Marco Rubio making some comments. So we're just going to have to keep on top of it and see what happens. Again, hopefully it's not done too haphazardly, but you have people saying it's already a little bit too late for that. So let's go to CNN, the Iran war, and what satellite images reveal after 1 week. So since that's so congruent with everything that we've heard from President Trump, I mean, I do have a clip from Fox News I want to play, but I'll play that after the Iran war clip because that's some satellite images. So let's go straight into that. Shout out to CNN for covering that.
Off from the outside world, Iran used an unprecedented imagery showing the extent of the damage to U.S. military facilities across Gulf Arab countries is starting to emerge. Part of Iran's furious response to an Israeli-American campaign that decimated its leadership. At least 9 U.S. military positions have been hit in less than 48 hours. These are relatively close targets. They're much nearer to Iran than its usual target, Israel. That proximity may give Iran's missiles and drones a better chance of hitting their targets. This is the port of Shuaiba, where just after 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, an Iranian strike set a makeshift U.S. operations center at the civilian port ablaze. 6 American service members were killed in the attack. You can see smoke rising from the fire. The blown-out 3-wide trailer blackened on the inside. There are few signs of fortification. In another attack, a drone, this appears to be the Arash-2, crashes into U.S. positions in Camp Buring. A building severely damaged. American helicopters parked inside the base were nearly hit. In Bahrain, a Shahid attack drone flies into the base that hosts the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet, one of the largest American naval formations in the world. It looks alarmingly defenseless. The drone hits one satellite communication terminal, clearly seen here. But the scale of the damage is more obvious here, warehouses and other buildings damaged, and another satellite communication terminal destroyed in a separate attack. We see this pattern of targeting throughout the region. At least 5 satellite communication terminals were destroyed. It points to a possible Iranian effort to cut U.S. bases off from the outside world. Iran used an unprecedented barrage of missiles and drones. U.S. Patriot missiles and other multi-billion-dollar air defense systems shot most of these out of the sky. But the ones that got through were enough to puncture the veil of security around oil-rich Gulf Arab states and the heart of America's security infrastructure in the Middle East.
We have obtained incredible new satellite imagery, and this is really important. It does show extensive damage at military bases across Iran, as you might expect, but that is what it shows. Now, we're using these images to piece together how the United States managed to kill the country's supreme leader, and so many around him that they after they thought dark was light, darkness was done, they're going to have this meeting. And was taken out. The U.S., we understand, had secretly been trailing him with intelligence for months. Katie Polglaze is out front with this incredible report.
With Iran very much still under attack, we've been using videos and satellite images like this one of the strike on the Supreme Leader's office to analyze how the senior leadership was dismantled by US and Israeli strikes and where exactly they've satellite images like this one of the strike on the Supreme Leader's office to analyze how the senior leadership was dismantled by US and Israeli strikes and where exactly they've hit.
We now know from US and Israeli sources that the CIA, along with Israeli intelligence, had been tracking Iran's senior leadership for months. Then came intelligence about a perfect opportunity to strike in broad daylight when many of Iran's top officials would be in the same place at once.
I'm about to show you something that makes me furious every time I see it. This is a real tax return from someone making $284,000.
And that place was here, the leadership house and the hub of Iran's power. It's also the office of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, now confirmed dead. It's in a very old, traditional Tehran neighborhood, surrounded by government offices, scientific institutions, and museums. Khamenei was known to not leave this compound much. He was seen here in this video just last week, addressing crowds at a mosque. The Israelis say they hit 3 sites on the compound simultaneously. We found several locations that have damage.
you can see a central building completely flattened. You can also see two craters here. This one appeared to have been targeting an underground structure, according to a former US Special Operations Tactical Advisor, Wes Bryant. Over here, you can see crowds and emergency and construction vehicles. But this wasn't the only location hit. The Intelligence Ministry headquarters was also up in smoke yesterday.
So they're showing how the supreme leadership was destroyed. They're showing how they took care of certain very important targets, right? How some of them, what I love is that how you can see that how they had to aim for one and how it went off to the side a little bit. And it's like they're not showing it as if it was a missed target, but it definitely seems like that. I was watching that earlier and I was like, that doesn't seem like that was actually the target, but it seemed like it landed in the general area. I think it's the clip where you can kind of hear the guy screaming and then kind of see this drone strike coming down. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
And then there's this strike, right outside the house of former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He has today been reported dead by some Iranian outlets. CNN has not been able to confirm his death. Ali Shamkhani, a senior advisor to the supreme leader, has also been reported dead by the Iranian authorities. He narrowly escaped death last June when Israel struck his home in this precise targeting of a top-floor apartment. Almost miraculously, he emerged from the rubble days later. This time, he was not so lucky. But others have been. The Iranian foreign minister here, Abbas Araghchi, was away in Geneva this week. The Oman Foreign Ministry posted this picture of him meeting his counterpart just 4 days ago. That trip may have saved his life. But Iran is very much still under attack. This IDF footage from Sunday morning shows a strike on the headquarters of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the notoriously brutal elite wing of Iran's military. What happens next remains to be seen, but Iran is aggressively fighting back, striking multiple US allies across the Middle East, including the United Arab Emirates. Fires visible here over Dubai's port area.
Yeah, and today President Trump went to Dover. I believe it was today. He went to Dover Air Force Base to recover the 6 bodies of the U.S. military personnel that were hit and KIA, killed in action. So shout out to President Trump, at least for coming back, and taking care of the bodies of our fallen soldiers. I'm not far from Dover Air Force Base at all. Like that's literally a day's trip for me. So it wasn't surprising to know that he would go there. And there's been a couple of times where presidents go into Dover Air Force Base, either to collect the bodies of individuals, either to confirm incoming cargo that's not a human person. So yeah, shout out to President Trump, because we got to make sure our fallen soldiers are taken care of.
Alongside Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain.
All right, I want to go to retired Army Major General Spider Marks now out front, head of the geopolitical intelligence at Academy Securities. And, when you look at Katie's reporting, it's just incredible, the detail, and to look at that. Khamenei rarely left the compound where he was ultimately killed. Okay, so in a sense, as she reports, that was common knowledge, right? But the reason that they did this when they did it, we understand, is because all of the senior leadership came in here. I mean, there was probably no bigger one strike to take out all that could have existed than this one. And it should have been pretty obvious that such a thing could have happened, I guess, in retrospect. I mean, what do you think, Spider? Was there any sign that this was coming to the Iranians? They obviously did not think they had been penetrated.
Totally surprised. I think it's a combination, really speculation on my part, but I think it's a combination of hubris on their part and the notion that they had been in negotiations with the administration over the course of several weeks, and reports at the end of last week indicated that progress had been made. In other words, they probably understood that they were now negotiating themselves into a position where there might be a delay on the part of the administration, that they were favorably aligned in some particular areas. And so who knows? It's absolutely baffling that they would do that, right? But also you have to understand that someone who doesn't leave the compound for weeks on end probably is not surprising. We saw that with Osama bin Laden, although he never left that thing for the longest time. But he also isolated himself and kept it very clear that his support network was as probably well trained as they could be to obfuscate their kind of connectivity. In this case, bringing 40 plus leaders to see the boss, very bad idea. But again, I think it's probably those two factors that probably played into it. They probably thought they had more time, and technical talks were going to take place in Vienna on Monday. Obviously, those are off the table, of course.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. So I only wanted to go a couple of minutes into that. Shout out to CNN for covering that. But I agree with him. He says they probably thought that they had more time, so they moved in a way that it might have seemed carelessly or haphazardly, but thinking they had more time, they made a move. And like the gentleman said, in this case, taking 40 people to go see the leader, this was a bad idea, and he's saying that he thinks that that's why it worked out in the United States' favor, not just because of power, but the way that it did specifically. So with that being said, let me go to, hold on guys, I gotta see what story I want to go to next. I really want to go to James Talarico next, but give me a minute. Let's watch one more clip. I want to show you guys something that President Trump said. I believe it was a couple of hours ago that he actually posted this in regards to Iran war. So let's check this out real quick.
Are you looking to sell your house as is without...
Okay, yeah, I thought so. When President Trump did this was a clip that Fox News actually covered. So kind of the same thing as he did with CNN and the other outlets. But he says, it'll be hit very hard. I just like the way that Fox caught this. So let's just take a look at what he says here.
Paying for costly repairs, inspections, or expensive realtor fees?
So moments ago, President Trump posting on Truth Social with a new warning to Iran. He writes, Iran, which is being beat to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless U.S. and Israeli attack. Today, Iran will be hit very hard, under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior. Are areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. And it comes after the president held a meeting with executives from 7 defense industry giants yesterday in a bid to boost production of higher tier weaponry amid the fighting in Iran. So let's turn to the wall and break down some of the numbers behind the conflict. Of course, from the very beginning, when you have asymmetrical warfare like this, you have a real problem because the United States has all of the money and the big weapons, but a place like Iran has lots of weapons, but they're much cheaper. For example, they are firing hundreds and they have thousands of these Iranian drones that cost them between $20,000 and $50,000 a piece to make. They have been the leaders in making those cheap drones. It costs us somewhere between $2 and $5 million each for, say, Patriot interceptors, or the THAAD interceptor to cost as much as $10 million each. So you can do the math and see that $2 million to shoot down a $20,000 drone. The math is very much against the United States in a situation like that. At the end of the first week, you're talking about several $1 billion worth of defense measures on our part. On the hope, though, is that what we have with the high energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance, the Helios, would allow us to shoot these things down a whole lot more cheaply. And of course, in Ukraine has developed lots of strategies for using even cheaper drones as little as $2,500 a piece to take down those drones. Here to discuss is Steve Yates, former Deputy National Security Advisor for Vice President Cheney. He directed George Bush's national security team against Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden. So great to have you this morning, Steve. So big picture.
It's kind of crazy because I was talking to a buddy of mine and he was actually shocked at these numbers. He had gotten a chance to see this clip before I did. And we were talking about it and he said, man, it's going to cost us so much money to shoot down these these pain in the behind Iranian drones that like they keep shooting and they have so many of them. And he's like, the way that in the long run it starts to affect the United States, he was really shocked by that. And you know me, not so much. I told him, I said, hey man, like war is expensive. We forget things like that. War is expensive. Shout out to Mr. Sanchez for the subscription. Shout out to you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, war is expensive. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, at first we think because America is the number one superpower, right? That we think to ourselves that we can just go to war. And it's like somebody going shopping at a grocery store with an unlimited credit card. But that's just not how war works, right? War is an expensive thing. And we're seeing how it's starting to add up now. I'm like, man, 10 million. It's getting crazy.
Right off the top, is the United States running out of ammunition?
Well, according to the Secretary of War, we are, of course, using supply, but we still have plenty to conclude this mission. And just as you are noting sort of in the math of they've expended a lot to the point where they're now sort of apologizing to their neighbors and maybe pulling back, they should be throwing fewer ordnance our way and towards our allies, and we should be expending a little less as this grinds forward just a little bit more. I see this right now as a way to look at how we always do, apply technology to achieve another revolution in military affairs, not to extend this war, but to extend the peace beyond this war. If America stays ahead, wins the technology, wins the space race, uses these means to kind of put these regional powers in their place when necessary, that's going to ultimately be a massive down payment on extended deterrence in Asia, the Middle East, and our own hemisphere.
How quickly can contractors who provide things like the Patriot missiles and the THAAD interceptors, how quickly can they ramp up production if needed?
Well, some of this is our standing on our own way. Obviously, President Trump is fully on board with the idea of flattening the old way of doing business where Beltway bandits became billionaires and things were too expensive, produced too few of them, and arrived way too late. So that old way of doing business has to stop, and I'm pretty sure the president might have shared an opinion or two along those lines. So whether it's regulatory holdups or other kinds of permitting, we've got to streamline these things. So I think that's the two sides of the coin that Secretary Hegseth has really made a priority. One is the warrior ethos, and the other is we've got to do business at the speed of war in this century. And that's, I think, where this meeting comes right into front and center.
Yeah, we have to go, but real quickly, looking forward, President Trump has talked about wanting to work with the future leadership of Iran. How difficult is it to negotiate unconditional surrender when so much of the top of Iranian leadership has been wiped out?
Well, I think the politics of this are going to be a challenge, but it's a good challenge in the sense that we've achieved military dominance. We've defanged the ability of the regime to hurt their own people and us and the region. I think political leaders will emerge, whether they're in the military or otherwise. And so I think in time, this is going to come to clarity. For now, I think patience makes a lot of sense, and strategic communication so far has been pretty good by the president through this crisis.
Steve Yates, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
That's just a short clip.
Produced too few of them and arrived way too late. So that old way of doing business has to stop, and I'm pretty sure the president might have shared an opinion or two along those lines. So whether it's regulatory holdups or other kinds of permitting, we've got to streamline these things. I think that's the two sides of the coin that Secretary Hegseth has really made a priority. One is the warrior ethos, and the other is we've got to do business at the speed of war in this century. And that's, I think, where this meeting comes right into front and center.
We have to do business of the speed of war of this century. Like, and this is why I say to you guys, I'm like, dude, it's hard for me to hate Pete Hegseth. Like, I know a lot of people don't like him. I get it. And a lot of people are like, the guy's reckless, the guy's a little crazy, but I like Pete. I do. And honestly, I think the thing that makes me like him the most is the warrior ethos. It is. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little biased. Like, I'm a Marine. So I like the way that he comes with it. He's not scared. Like I said, I feel like he's one of the best Secretary of Wars wars that we've had. Now, that's coming from a Marine. That's coming from someone that I can legitimately say to you, I can't remember the last time we had a Secretary of War, Defense, whatever you want to call him, Department of War, right? I can't remember the last time we had a guy in that position and he went out and he ran PT with the troops. I can tell you guys right now, every single day of me being on active duty, I never watched this happen. I can call a Marine Corps buddy of mine right now and he would attest to the same thing. This just does not happen. So I think that part of Pete Hegseth is what has the military, so motivated right now, right? It has people proud to serve again. And for a little while, our country, we didn't see that. So shout out to the Secretary of War for that. All right, so let's go over to the New York Post now. They have the moment Kristi Noem Senate hearing that likely got her fired as Secretary of Homeland Security. I think it has a lot to do with the deportation ad campaign. That's the only place that I can go to. I got a chance to watch that Senate hearing, and we actually reacted to it here on the channel. I think that's one of the key moments that did it, because I could just see that the Democrats used that against her in a way where they said that's basically $220 million of fraud or waste. So let's take a look at those key moments.
This is still Domino's best deal ever. I mean, it's the only deal that gets you any Domino's pizza with.
How do you square that concern for waste, which I share, with the fact that you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently?
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercial.
I'm not going to lie. When I saw the key moments, all I said to myself was, if Mr. Kennedy is part of those key moments, those of you guys that have watched Kennedy in the Senate hearings, if you know, you know. Like, the guy is just an absolute, like, he could be an absolute savage. I'm telling you, if this was my grandfather, I would be very proud.
Out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
Okay. Did you bid out those service contracts?
Yes, they did. They went out to a competitive bid, and career officials at the department chose who would do those advertising commercials.
And the people that you ended up picking were people who had formerly done your political work back in South Dakota, is that right?
No, that's not correct, sir.
I think it is.
No, it's not, sir. The individuals who I believe the careers who they chose were two different media firms. There's been conversation about their subcontractors, but we have no legal authority to look into subcontractors on work like that.
Okay. And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time? Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do
OMB.
this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vogt at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick. In fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy.
Oh wow, safe. What's the name of
strategy
it?
group.
Okay, so Mr. Kennedy saying that she picked the strategy group. Now, this is interesting because even though I got a chance to watch this, I didn't hear that part. And even when we went back to some Kristi Noem's just top moments in her Senate hearing before this clip was out, like the top moments that might have got her fired, there was just a top moments clip in general. And that top moments clip did have Mr. Kennedy in it. It just must have got past my ears. I didn't hear it. So the fact that he just said that she went with what is it, a media company? He's saying that it was created 11 days before she chose it. I'm like, oh man, that's suspect. That's sus. I didn't even hear this part, so I can understand if this would have something to do with why she might, have gotten fired.
My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick. In fact, one of the people.
So he's saying that, I'm going to go back a little bit more, but he's saying that based on his research, she did not bid the ad campaigns out, like the ads out. She didn't bid them out to like different companies to see which company would give her the better deal on it. She went with a specific company that was created 11 days exactly before she chose the company. That's interesting, Kristi Noem.
You picked the strategy, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vogt at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick. In fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. It troubles me. A fifth to a quarter of $1 billion of taxpayer money when we're scratching for every penny and we're fighting over rescission packages. I just can't agree with Madam Secretary. Are you still running those ads?
Senator, I did not have anything to do with picking those contractors. I know politicals at the Department of Homeland Security did.
I understand. Are you
Their
still running
officials
those
followed
ads?
the competitive bid process.
Are you still running those ads?
I think the ads are due to end here in March. I think within a week.
So
or two.
they
I'm
are
not sure.
still running?
The one that is running is focusing on angel families. Have you seen that? It is the one that's talking about this is our why. This is why we work every day.
Okay.
It's for the angel
I've gotta
families
move
and their
on.
victims that need to.
Okay, that's Mr. Kennedy for you. If you guys know, you know. So we got the Independent and Fox 9 Minneapolis. We're gonna go to Kristi Noem's most 5 controversial moments, and then after that, Markwayne Mullin could be head of DHS. We're gonna take a look at a clip that I have about Markwayne Mullin, and then we will keep going. So let's go to Kristi Noem's top 5 moments, I believe it is, and these are just moments that we're watching. You know that because since we've been gone and since I haven't brought you guys the daily live stream because we cover the news every day, right? This happened. Kristi Noem, I knew this happened with her about a day or two ago. But again, because my wife and I were taking care of certain things, celebrating our wedding anniversary, I wasn't on as much as I usually am, like looking for my news clips and getting my things ready for the next day. So I knew that this had happened, but I wasn't bringing the news to you guys. So let's take a look at the top 5 moments.
Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at.
Oh my gosh. I know exactly what that is. If you guys actually watched the Senate hearing or you've been watching clips in the last couple of days, then you know what that is. That is a picture of, I think it is a bedroom on a jet. It's a bedroom on one of the jets that the cabinet brought. It's a very nice bedroom. I remember when the guy started questioning her about this, and he started asking like, what kind of deportee would need like this type of bedroom? And I think he asked her like if she's ever been inside of it or like something like that. It was kind of crazy.
At a picture.
Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at a picture of an interior. It looks like a bedroom.
Of an airplane?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You're not familiar with that?
These photos are not accurate. If you're referring to the airplanes that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased and are purchasing, we're using them for long-range command and control aircraft.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
I believe it's being refurbished and not having a bedroom in it. So it is being refurbished.
In 2024, memoir, she described shooting her untrainable dog. Okay, you know what? Who was it that got angry with her about a dog? Was it Kennedy? Oh man, we reacted to this clip on the channel. I can't remember who it was. Was it Cory Booker? Oh man, I don't remember. Someone was getting on her about this dog. Who was it? I don't remember who it was. I have to go back and find it. Let's watch the clip. She also admitted to killing a family goat on the same day while stating we love animals. I didn't hear the part about the goat. Oh my gosh. Is this what got Kristi Noem fired? Oh my goodness. Is it like a whole bunch of animal lovers just lost their mind? Is that what happened here? Oh my God. They're probably like a dog first and then a goat. She's a murderer.
Have you had sexual relations?
Allegations of affair with Corey. You guys have to tell me what you think about that. I don't think I ever brought much into those allegations with Corey and Kristi Noem. I mean, they're both married, and I'm not saying that because they're both married an affair couldn't happen. I don't know. I heard something about it. I saw it. It never really took wind. It just seemed to be something that was gossip. So I never really paid much of that gossip mind between her and Corey.
With Corey Lewandowski.
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming
and
my
ma'am, one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal.
He is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
This individual who came.
Domestic terrorist. Yep, I remember this. When she said this about Renee Good and Alice Preddy, I was like, yeah, this is not going to work out well. And I knew that. I think most people who said that about them, it didn't work out well for them. And that's just because we just have so many different angles of footage and so many different ways that we can look at it. I mean, you have people saying, hey, her wheels were turned this way when it comes to the ICE agent, right? She had all intentions of dodging him. You can see the wheels turn. You have people arguing that Alex's gun was holstered, which I was one of those people. And I said, dude, if you know anything about firearm safety, a holstered gun is probably one of the most, if not the most safe position a gun could be in, right? So I don't understand what else they would have wanted other than a concealed carry. And I don't see how that would have worked out any better. So yeah, I knew if they were going to use this particular one when she called them domestic terrorists, that this wasn't going to work in her favor.
With weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts. Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here. But that freedom's a precious thing, and we defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you.
Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences.
But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies. From President Trump and me, welcome home.
Yep. Now, who doesn't remember that that ad with the cowboy hat? That one was so stinking controversial. I can remember how many people just completely lost it over that. They just lost it. They were not happy at all. All right, so let's keep going. Shout out to the Independent for covering that. And we just have to see what happens. It's not like Kristi Noem is getting completely kicked out of the cabinet. I believe that this is such a horrible word, but this is what came to my mind when I saw what they were doing. It almost seems like they're repurposing her, right? So it seems like that's what's going to happen. So up next, we got Fox 9 Minneapolis Republican Oklahoma Senator. In case you guys are not familiar where he's from, Markwayne Mullin could be head of DHS. So let's take a look at that clip.
Car insurance for $19 a month? It's real and it's stupidly easy. Here's how.
After the firing of Kristi Noem from her position as Homeland Security Secretary, Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin says his impending nomination to the job is humbling. Fox's congressional correspondent Bill Melugin has the story tonight from Washington.
He's an Oklahoma rancher and business owner, a former MMA fighter, and a current U.S. Senator. Now, Markwayne Mullin is likely to replace Kristi Noem as the head.
So, in case you guys were totally unfamiliar with this, other than a senator, a representative from Oklahoma, and a Republican, I knew that about Markwayne. I was wondering if anyone was going to mention the fact that he was a former MMA fighter. But a lot of people felt like, was this the reason why President Trump chose to hire him, right? But we know President Trump is a fan, right, of MMA fighting, so of fighting in general, so we know that. And a lot of people said, hey, was this a reason why, like, Trump chose this guy? I think it has something to do with it. I mean, I don't really care too much about the reasoning behind it. I mean, I care if the guy's crooked or not. Markwayne Mullin, we've heard some things. I would say he's not who's the guy? Matt Gaetz, right? He's not a Matt Gaetz. Not by far, based on anything I've heard about him. But I do think the MMA fighting has something to do with it.
Of the Department of Homeland Security.
We're trying to bring everybody. I'm here to enforce the policies that Congress passed, and right now I'm part of it, but once I make that transition, my focus is to keep the homeland secure.
But first, he'll have to get confirmed by the Senate, where his Republican allies will support him.
A, I like him. B, he's very smart. C, he's a very good businessman. And D, if I didn't believe the three things I just told you, I'd lie to you because Markwayne would whip my ass.
But Democrats may be a mixed bag.
The president has fired Kristi Noem. Good riddance. But the problems at this agency, ICE, transcend any one person.
DHS has now been unfunded for 3 weeks, and employees at TSA, FEMA, Coast Guard, and Secret Service are missing paychecks. Democrats are dug in and say replacing Noem with Mullin won't end their blockade.
It's not like Kristi Noem was the one who was involved in negotiating anything. She was a corrupt lackey. So we were dealing with the White House before, and we're going to continue to deal with the White House at this point.
Now, if Senator Mullin can get confirmed, President Trump says he'll...
Gosh, man. Leave it to Hakeem Jeffries. He said a corrupt lackey. I'm like, man. Okay, Hakeem, we hear you.
Start at DHS at the end of the month. Before becoming an Oklahoma senator, he was an Oklahoma congressman for a decade. Reporting in Washington, Bill Melugin, Fox News.
All right, so we'll keep up to date with what some of the Democrats have to say. You can see Chuck Schumer comes on the scene, and he's like, good riddance, right? But Kristi Noem is the least of our worries, right? And then we see Hakeem Jeffries kind of follow suit and say the same exact thing, you know. that she's the least of our worries. She was a corrupt lackey, and that they'll have to keep dealing with the administration. So that's what we will watch. Shout out to Hook Global. Going to the next clip. Are you the one who ordered it? Crockett slams Noem for restricting ICE detention facility visits. I did get a chance to watch this in this entirety and this live. And I thought it was a credible question that was asked because Jasmine Crockett leads with, do you understand that this is the law? Kristi Noem says she does understand, and Jasmine Crockett says, okay, so when we went, why were we turned away, or why did we face problems based on something that, these individuals at the ICE facility were saying were put in place by you and by your administration? So let's take a listen.
Capitalism was never designed to help you thrive. It was designed to keep.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is when Jasmine Crockett and a few other people tried to go visit Liam at this time. Or at least that was one of the times. And then another time I think was just to investigate or just take a look at the facility. Just how the cleanliness of it, how it was being ran, how some of the detainees were doing. So let's take a listen.
Keep you exhausted.
Thousands of times across the country, those individuals.
And Madam Secretary, you are almost to the end, so congratulations. I just have a couple of questions. Are you aware that the law that was written by this Congress makes it clear that members of Congress are entitled to enter any detention?
President Crockett, I apologize. I have to run to vote in another committee, Secretary, and Mr. Schmidt will chair, and you will get extra 15 seconds, but I apologize for that.
Yes, thank you so much for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Are you aware that the law makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to enter any detention facility at any point in time in which they choose to?
Yes, I'm aware of the visitation and oversight responsibility, and we work every day to try to accommodate members of Congress while taking into account the safety of those individuals that
Let me be clear, at any time, correct?
Yes, I understand there's litigation in this area.
No, that's not my question. I'm not asking you about litigation. I'm asking you what the law is, because let me put it to you.
There's an appropriations rider that talks about.
Correct, and appropriations are law, because you are asking us to appropriate dollars right now for DHS, correct?
Correct.
And if we do that, you would take that as law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is what the law states, yet somehow, myself and another colleague, Congressman Castro, we ended up giving a 7-day notice to the Dilley detention facility because I had actually already gone to El Paso before. And when I went to that facility and I asked them why it was that they were requiring me to do something that specifically my branch of government had dictated was not required, they said it was because of you. They said you were the one that said that they were not allowed to allow us entry unless we gave a 7 days heads up. Is that true?
The law specifically states oversight and visitations, and we are working to facilitate those, and we're at that time.
Did you give the instruction that members must give a 7 days heads up or not?
We had a policy in place that allowed us to get.
Were you the one that ordered that policy?
I have a responsibility for ensuring everybody in the facility is going to be safe, and that I have.
No, but that's not my question, because let me tell you why we need to reclaim my time. The reason that I'm talking to you about this policy and you're talking to me about safety is because I did go into the Dilley detention facility. And let me tell you, they're not safe. This is why we need to conduct oversight, because your people continue. In fact, you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now. So I don't expect that y'all are going to be the ones that are going to be best to keep them safe. This is why we are supposed to conduct oversight and not wait for you to give permission. In fact, after I left the Dilley facility, we were informed of a measles outbreak that was taking place in that facility. And
that's something that, when was this? I want to say it was yesterday and the day before yesterday. I started to see headlines about a measles outbreak that Trump's cabinet was, quote unquote, being silent about. So I started to see that trickle into the news just a couple of days ago. So I couldn't really, not that I was trying to, but I was like, you're not really going to be able to argue with Jasmine Crockett here, because that's actually some truth. When they found out about the measles outbreak, no one in the detention facility had reported anything, had said anything The only way it could be an outbreak is if people were getting it, right? So it can't just be like, oh, it's March and it's a measles outbreak. No, they would have had to have some cases, some active cases, some people who have possibly even had gotten over the measles, and it just wasn't reported. So I thought that was troublesome. You know, if that's going on in a detention facility, like, why wouldn't things like that be being reported?
The question I have, are you the one that ordered it to be reopened because that facility was closed under Joe Biden?
Those facilities were opened with the new administration. I'd have to look
Okay,
and
you're
see
part of
if
the
that
new
was-
administration. Were you the one that ordered it to be open is my question.
I would have to see when it was opened because I wasn't sworn in until 5 days after.
Okay, well, it was reopened in
I would
March.
have to look at
It was reopened in March of last year.
Well, then I'm sure that contract would have been renewed while I was secretary.
Speaking of contracts, as I have actually, you know what? Let me continue on this line of y'all breaking the law. Are you familiar with a child by the name of Liam Ramos?
I am.
All right, so Liam was at this Dilley facility, and it just so happened that we had put in our 7 days notice, and y'all had grabbed him 6 days prior to our visit. So we were able to go and visit Liam. Are you aware of the court order that came down that released Liam from custody?
I am.
And are you aware that the judge said the case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children? This court and others regularly send undocumented people to prison and orders them deported, but do so by proper legal procedures. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and I would disagree with the judge on
I'm
several
sure you
points
would,
in
but can
there.
you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
Father chose to.
Can you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
If I have what?
A law degree.
No, I do not have a law degree.
Okay, and you do understand, because I can go through a bunch of court cases and orders that I disagree with from the Supreme Court, that ultimately, that is the order of the court. That is what you follow, and if you have an issue, you appeal it up, correct?
That is correct.
Hot meals is now needed, especially during this beautiful month of Ramadan and Sadaqah.
The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will yield, but I do have 2 UCs.
You know, when she read that, I knew what she was reading, a lot of people weren't going to be familiar with, especially some black and brown people that don't really follow politics or political news. And when she said that, you know, are you aware that the judge is referencing ICE who falls under you? And Kristi Noem said yes. I knew at that point in time because Jasmine Crockett had read it, and it wasn't just her opinion. Because we know this about Jasmine Crockett, right? Some people might call her Crockett Rocket, right? Just simply because she's explosive. Like, they see her in her Senate hearings and she tends to be explosive, whether she's getting into it with people, she's telling somebody off, whatever it is. She's listing facts, she's putting data and statistics out there. So she says that, and I know with the way that she positioned her question and she read it, right? And that's what I'm saying, because people can say, well, she doesn't have many moments like that. Well, she had one now. And she read it very eloquently, and she said, are you aware that he's actually referring to ICE under you? I remember the first time I watched this, and I thought to myself, like, that was a good way that she positioned the question. That was a decent way that she did it. So I could understand if even this would be a part of Kristi Noem's top moments that led to her, just it not working out. I'm not saying it was all just that one hearing that did it. I think it was just historical data being collected from her hearings.
The first UC is ICE training was slashed, records show corroborating whistleblower claims from the Washington Post on yesterday.
Without objection.
The second one is FEMA's response to Texas flood slowed by Noem's cost controls. This is out of CNN from July 10th of 2025.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
to acknowledge the angel families. There are very few jurisdictions that don't have angel families. Very, very few. Thank you for your courage and your willingness to be here today. I am grateful that the ranking member at least knows, Secretary Noem, that under your jurisdiction, there's the Coast Guard, there's FEMA, and a whole host of other agencies, TSA being one. He listed some of them. He's chosen not to fund them. How outrageous is that? How outrageous? So Secretary Noem, before I turn to my questions, I want to establish the insanity of what sanctuary jurisdictions are doing and why it matters. And by the way, I'll just say, Mr. Chairman, on the CDL issue, I have a bill 7200. I'd love to bring that in because it would require states to do E-Verify before they grant a CDL. We might save some more lives. Let's start with ICE immigration detainers. From October 2022 through February 2025, state and local jails declined more than 25,000 ICE detainers. In more than 1,400 additional cases, they failed to provide proper notice before releasing an alien from custody. That's not symbolic resistance. That's operational non-cooperation. It undermines federal law, increases the risk to law enforcement. It increases the risk.
I'm telling you, leave it to Mr. Biggs. Operational non-cooperation. That's some of the best word salad I've ever heard. And it's actually a pretty decent word salad.
To the person arrested even. And it results in the release of removable criminal aliens back in the American communities. This administration, the Trump administration, the Noem administration is enforcing the tools Congress provided. We expect cooperation, not obstruction. The consequences are not hypothetical. ICE data from FY 2025 shows that sanctuary jurisdictions released offenders with homicide charges or convictions, and I'm going to highlight just several examples. Rami Jalal Naisan, an Iraqi national with 28 arrests. Chicago ignored 3 ICE detainers. 15 of his arrests occurred after the first detainer was issued. Waldemar Zidek, a Polish national convicted of attempted murder after stabbing his wife and daughter, was released despite an ICE detainer. Alexander Pascual Pedro, arrested for aggravated criminal sexual abuse of a child, released despite a detainer, later convicted of solicitation to meet a child, and then arrested again for domestic violence. Ismael Gomez Urzua, deported 4 times, 3 detainers ignored despite arrest for narcotics, fleeing police, and weapons violations. Dennis Humberto Navarrete Romero, an illegal immigrant, was...
And this is why people got to be careful when they're talking about, oh, people who come here and they work hard and they're not doing anything, they shouldn't be touched. Listen, I'm not saying I don't agree to that. But if the United States is saying you already broke the law by coming illegally, it is what it is. You already broke it by coming illegally. So based on that definition, they're already going to put you at fault for committing a crime. This is what we have to understand. But some of the statistics Mr. Biggs is throwing out there is crazy work. Being arrested, like, really, 4 different times? How is this person even allowed to get back into the United States? See, this is where I say that people who are born here in America, it's like we don't have the same type of mindset the rest of the world does. The rest of the world can be very, very cutthroat compared to America. Because in other countries, as an American, you can go and get arrested there one time. Right? Remember what happened to Brittany Garner? What did she have? Like a vape and something else coming out of an airport. And she ended up being in a Russian detention facility for I don't know how long. We actually ended up having to do a freaking prisoner exchange. Like, are you serious? So it's like we literally we'll allow somebody to come back into our country over and over and over and over again up until they kill a person. And if we go to another country and we do one wrong thing, it doesn't have to be a violent crime. It's over for us. It's over. We're getting locked up, and if we ever even do get out of there, we're not going to be welcomed back into the country.
Arrested for many crimes or released into the community repeatedly. He went on to allegedly rape a woman on a trail in Fairfax. 2025 shows that sanctuary jurisdictions released offenders with homicide charges or convictions, and I'm going to highlight just several examples. Rami Jalal Naisan, an Iraqi national with 28 arrests. Chicago ignored 3 ICE detainers. 15 of his arrests occurred after the first detainer was issued. Waldemar Zidek, a Polish national convicted of attempted murder after stabbing his wife and daughter, was released despite an ICE detainer. Alexander Pascual Pedro, arrested for aggravated criminal sexual abuse of a child, released despite a detainer, later convicted of solicitation to meet a child, and then arrested again for domestic violence. Ismael Gomez Urzua, deported 4 times, 3 detainers ignored despite arrest for narcotics, fleeing police, and weapons violations. Then is Humberto Navarrete Romero, an illegal...
So narcotics, fleeing police, and weapons. Narcotics, fleeing police, and weapons violations. You think an American can go to a place like Russia, a place like China, a place like... You think we can go to countries like this and commit these types of crimes, and we're going to get let go, and be able to commit some more crimes, get deported, and go back to the country? This is where Americans have to wake up.
Illegal immigrant was arrested for many crimes but released into the community repeatedly. He went on to allegedly rape a woman on a trail in Fairfax County. Abraham Gonzalez, a Venezuelan gang member, arrested in Denver for aggravated assault, motor vehicle theft, and felony menacing. Denver gave ICE only 1 hour's notice before forcing officers to arrest him in a public parking lot where an officer was assaulted. Those aren't policy disagreements. Those are public safety failures, a willful desire to hold the community or put the community in danger. Beyond those individual cases, we've seen tragic losses around this country, not just of the individual families here today, but Lake and Riley, killed by a Venezuelan national unlawfully present in the U.S. Rachel Morin, a 37-year-old mother in Maryland, raped and killed by an illegal alien from El Salvador, later convicted of first-degree murder. Jocelyn Ungary, 12-year-old girl in Houston, sexually assaulted and murdered by 2 Venezuelan nationals unlawfully present in the U.S. They have been charged with capital murder. And we can go on and on. So, Madam Secretary, what is the value of an ICE detainer, and why is it such an important public safety tool?
Well, a detainer that we would lodge with the local law enforcement jurisdiction lets them know that when they are going to release that individual out to the public, that we would like to take custody of that. When we have detainers that are honored, we can go into a courthouse, we can go into a jail or a prison, and in a safe environment, take custody of that individual, take them to a detention center, and remove them to their home country. When they don't honor our detainers, that individual is released out into the streets. And what we know for a fact is hundreds and hundreds of times, thousands of times across the country, those individuals reoffend. And what they're doing by not honoring detainers is creating more victims.
When ICE issues a detainer, you're not asking local officers to conduct immigration sweeps in neighborhoods. You're requesting simply notice before release or a brief lawful hold so you can assume custody, right?
That is correct.
If ICE is requesting a short hold, that means that the individual is already in state or local custody.
Correct.
And individuals in jail are there because there was probable cause for arrest, and in many cases because they've been convicted of crimes, right?
Correct.
And so when these sanctuary policies are enacted, they put the community at harm, they put your agents at risk, and even the perpetrator at risk. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back, but I have some UC requests.
Gentleman's recognized for UC.
Thank you.
Because otherwise, I might be stuck with a stack of bills and debt for the rest of my life.
All right, so you guys can head over to Hook Global and watch the remainder of that video. Shout out to them, give them their due views. Let's now go to let's finish this up because I want to do the anti-war protester, which is the Marine, the United States Marine, by the way, that gets his arm broken. Let's look at Bill O'Reilly or the Epstein files being reported irresponsibly. Bill O'Reilly and Isaac Shore discuss. Let's take a look at that first, and then after that, we'll go to the CNN clip of the Marine that has over 2 million views.
On the Transparency Act, but their conduct is... So on Sunday, there was a column in the New York Post. I want to quote it, a little bit of it for you. It was written by Isaac Shore. And he said, opportunists of all political stripes are using any and every tool at their disposal to make hay out of them with no regard for the victims and their misdirection or the truth. Representatives Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna become media darlings for their work on the Transparency Act, but their conduct has actually been unbefitting decent men, much less congressmen. The pair claim to have discovered 6 men likely incriminating Epstein's nefarious activities in unredacted files, and Khanna went so far as to name them on the House floor. It quickly turned out that 4 had no connection at all to Epstein, unquote. So this is a witch hunt. This is the French Revolution. This is the guillotine. This is destroying people without evidence. One thing you should know is that President Obama signed an executive order saying that if information would be harmful to the public or individuals, it could be classified by the president and the heads of the departments. Now, that executive order is still in play despite this Transparency Act. And that's why these some of the documents in the so-called Epstein files weren't put forward. Because Attorney General is that President Obama signed an executive order saying that if information would be harmful to the public or individuals, it could be classified by the president and the heads of the departments.
If the information is harmful, it can be classified by the president and the heads of the department. Oh my goodness, man. I'm telling you, in America, we can't make this stuff up. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we got the redacted files instead of the Epstein files. You have got to be kidding me right now. This man just said this. And it's like, I knew this. I haven't heard this in so long. This is why I was telling you guys, like, this news tonight was going to be good. Because the minute Bill O'Reilly said that, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. So, obviously, this is why we got the redacted files instead of the Epstein files, right? Because some of that information in there, it can cause someone harm. Who is it, though? Is it the president? Is it people in his cabinet? Who is it, right? Because we haven't seen anything as far as President Trump goes, as far as, like, because people keep saying all these things about, oh, Trump with kids, Trump's been doing this. Listen, they hate this guy so much, just stop it and learn your politics. If they had anything on Trump, he'd be impeached. They can't stand the guy. Like, he's not the type of dude that they're going to have some stuff on and they're going to hold it back. They would be like, yeah, we getting him up out of there. So let's just chill out, right? When hard evidence comes, we'll know it because he'll be in the same position as Bill Clinton, right? So let's just pipe down on that part. But I mean, man, Bill O'Reilly saying that is a mouthful, because if it can cause harm, then you know what? I'm not shocked Obama signed this. This is why me and Barack have to have a conversation one day, because there's just things he's done as far as just policy that is questionable to me.
Now, that executive order is still in play despite this Transparency Act. And that's why these some of the documents in the so-called Epstein files weren't put forward, because Attorney General Bondi, classified them at the direction, I'm sure, of President Trump. And joining us now from Rochester, New York, is Isaac Shore. He's a senior editor at Mediaite. So, has the tide turning against this witch hunt, this Epstein thing, do you think?
I mean, I would like to think so, Bill, but somehow I doubt it. I mean, as long as it is viewed as a weapon against Donald Trump specifically, you're going to see it remain in the news very much so. And I mean, look no further. You just referenced it. Last week, there was this whole controversy over these missing documents in the Epstein files. And it does appear that the Trump administration either deleted or never published them at all. You can, as you said, there might be some legal reason for that. You might question the strategic aim of that, because what happened is it blew.
And I see why Isaac's saying this, but other than those two options, it was redacted. Like we see, they came out and everybody was like, what is this? You have pages that the pages are completely black. There's nothing on them. There's only a couple of paragraphs or 1 or 2 sentences, and then everything's blacked out. Yeah, just heavily redacted.
Blew up, and you have all these media outlets so excitedly parroting this allegation against the president and saying it's credible when it was really anything but. So I have my doubts that it's going to calm down anytime soon, even though it should.
Well, it's pretty shameful that the media is calling for unredacted files that are fantasy. For the pages that you were referring to is some woman who says that she was assaulted by Trump and Epstein. She doesn't know what state she was assaulted in. She doesn't know how she got to that state because she lives in the South. She says, well, I either got there by plane or car. You don't know how you got there? And then the woman herself was arrested on a variety of criminal charges, right? And you want to put out her statement, her accusations? That's defamation per se, and insane, is it not?
I mean, I see why Bill's saying that. I would say it's irresponsible, to say the least, because I mean, if I went somewhere, by now this is of course making sure that I'm not inebriated in any way, right? Like I'm not on any type of drugs or alcohol or anything like that. Not that I'm doing that stuff, but I'm just saying, like, I'm referring to what this woman is saying. As long as I'm okay, I'm pretty sure the difference between if I got somewhere via car or plane, right? They're two very different modes of transportation. You just know the difference, right? If you drove somewhere, you drove somewhere. If you flew somewhere, you got on a plane and you flew somewhere. So I think it's kind of crazy to even count her testimony or anything she said. They needed to make sure that, you know, during that time, like, could this woman have been drugged? If she's saying those two very, very different modes of transportation, could she have been intoxicated at the time? Could someone have drugged her? You know what I'm saying? Because, like, could she have been on anything? Because for her to say, well, I got there by, you know, plane or car, it's like, well, was she driven to an airport? Like, or did she drive there? Was it local or like in the United States, or was she flown there? Like, so I could understand why Bill would say that. I would say it's pretty irresponsible, to put it out, to say the least. So I can see why he would say, I don't know if I would go as far as defamation, but I could even see why he would say that.
I mean, it absolutely is. I mean, and there's more where that came from. I mean, there's not even, like, as far as we know, Trump and Epstein hadn't even begun their friendship by this time, where this woman is claiming that, you know, Epstein delivered her to Trump to be assaulted. We have no proof that they were even friends at that time. We have no proof that Epstein ever was on Hilton Head Island, where she said she begun her relationship with.
Okay, so if this is the island that I think that they're talking about, this is probably in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I spent some time out there because one of my first duty stations was nearby there. So if they're talking about the place I'm thinking, that would be Hilton Head, South Carolina.
With Epstein, I believe in the 1980s. So there's so much to pick apart about that. But what's amazing is all these outlets have taken the fact that there were these missing files, and they started calling the accusation credible without including any of this information.
And they never explain the classified nature of almost every government agency that has stuff that is unverified. They're not going to release to the public. And that's the moral thing to do. You don't destroy people, all right, with unfounded allegations. I mean, that's what I fear in this country, and I've seen this now over a 10-year period, is due process doesn't matter anymore. The press has destroyed due process in America. You're not innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. You're guilty if the press wants to put you in a headline.
I mean, that's absolutely true. And I mean, Trump has been one of the main targets of theirs, but I mean, there's been others. You know, there have been anti-Israel obsessives who have used, you know, Epstein's relationship with Ehud Barak, who was formerly the prime minister of Israel, actually a political rival of Benjamin Netanyahu. But, you know, they've been insisting, because they were friends, that Epstein was actually a Mossad agent. You already talked about Massey and Khanna, who are just using the speech and debate clause on the House floor to smear people. But they're media darlings because they oppose Trump.
The irony is
there's just so many examples.
The left condemned Joseph McCarthy in the 50s for labeling everybody a communist without the evidence. But, that was horrible, but now we can do it. Last question. When you see a poll that CNN just put out, and most of the people in the poll say, no, we don't want the Iranian government overthrown. There's only one explanation in my mind, and that's stupidity for that kind of an opinion. Am I missing something?
You know, I agree. I think there are principled reasons.
I think, and I want to see what Isaac is going to say here, but I think a lot of that just has to do with what we're going to see in the next clip where the Marine is saying no one wants to fight for Israel, right? I think it has something to do with that there. You know, I get why Bill says ignorance because, and a lot of that comes from what, you know, is being said about Iran and how, you know, death to America and all that other stuff. So it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you want a place that wants to see your country, you know, not survive, not prosper? You know, why wouldn't you want to see a regime change? But I think it has a lot more to do with people just not wanting to fight what they're saying is Israel's war.
To oppose the administration's actions. I personally support them, but I can understand, you know, principled reasons. We're concerned about the domino effect. We don't know, but to say that you don't want this regime to fall, I mean, I think, you know, stupidity is one way to describe it. I mean, I also think there are a lot of people, unfortunately, in this country who share kind of this anti-American instinct and who are kind of prone to make heroes out of some of the worst regimes on earth, some of the worst people on earth, because they oppose America. I mean, I think we've seen plenty of that over the last few years, ever since October 7th. There's people out in the streets, on Ivy League campuses. Their disdain for Israel is oftentimes just a laundered anti-Americanism.
I think there's a strain of anti-Semitism in that poll, but not a lot. I just think it's ignorance. So, Isaac, thanks very much. We appreciate the good work you're doing.
There's people out in the streets, on Ivy League campuses. Their disdain for Israel is oftentimes just a laundered anti-Americanism.
I think there's a strain of anti-Semitism in that poll, but not a lot. I just think it's ignorance. So, Isaac, thanks very much.
Okay. I mean, he says he thinks there's a strand of anti-Semitism in there, but not a lot of ignorance. I don't know if I would say... I mean, I get why he's saying that. I think a strand is a good word, so I'll agree with Bill on that. I wouldn't say that, let's say if we had to pick my mind, because I work in the scientific field, let's say if I had to put it on the spectrum, I would say that it wouldn't be dominant and it wouldn't be majority, right? But maybe it would be trace, right? So few, right? A strand, right? That's a certain amount of people in there. Maybe that's linked to anti-Semitism. But he says mostly ignorance. And I would say, yeah, I mean, he's using the word ignorance for it. Some of it could just be that, you know, people are being more open to talking about, you know, America being in Israel's back pocket, if you will. I know Bill won't agree to that and he wouldn't like that, but that's the rhetoric out there, especially amongst the Nick Fuentes, the Candace Owens, and that matters because people are starting to listen to that and believe what they're hearing, right? So now you have people saying, like, we don't want to fight Israel's war. Let Israel fight Israel's war. So I think that's where some of that's coming from. Not that they hate Israel per se, but just that they're like, when it comes to our interests, we're putting America first and we just don't want to fight someone else's war. You know, Israel wants to do that, let them do that. So I think that's where some of that's coming from. But shout out to Bill O'Reilly. Let's go over to Aaron Page. Shout out to Aaron Page, a channel absolute favorite over here. Go to Aaron Page's channel when you get a chance. Christian content creator. Love his channel, love his content. Great clips. I've been covering this gentleman for a while, but I was super happy when I saw Aaron got wind of it because he has a much larger platform than me, and I know a lot more people will see it. It has 11,000 views so far right now, and it says, this dangerous Christian leader will sadly lead many astray. So let's take a look.
I used to talk about the Bible like this. I think there's a verse about that somewhere in Psalms, maybe.
Mary, if this is something she wants to do, and she says,
Okay, shout out to Mr. James Talarico, the new Senate representative from Texas. He beat Jasmine Crockett in the Senate race. Like some of you, I was surprised only because James does not have the platform that Jasmine has. James does not have the reputation. He is not as known, and that is why this threw me for a loop when I saw that he won. But it makes so much sense if we just think about I don't know, the way I don't want to get too crazy down here. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. But just let's just say the way that certain things towards the end times in scripture are ushered in. Let's just say something like that. So this level of deception that Mr. Talarico comes with is pretty grotesque in my opinion. Like I want to throw up in my mouth if I'm honest with you. I think what made it worse is that he won the Senate race, and I was like, oh wow, this is problematic to say the least. I don't hate the guy. I went on record to say he's extremely charismatic. Handsome guy, articulates himself well, pretty put together, speaks to the crowd, pulls on a lot of emotional heartstrings. He does all the things that somebody might need to do to be, what did I see in one of his comments? A modern day Moses. I was like, Lord have mercy. Jesus, come right now. So, yeah, we're going to take a look at this because I wasn't happy about this. Like I said, I have nothing personal against James, but you have a lot of people that are saying things like, I would love to invite him to our Bible study because there are some questions I have. And I knew this would come. So you have the people in the comments that are like, look at all the Christians. Like this guy tries to promote a message of love and a message of unity. And look at all the Christians bashing him. What are the odds? And I'm like, dude, come on, man. Talking about not recognize a wolf in sheep's clothing, like this level of deception is sickening. Let's take a look at what Aaron Page had to say.
This individual may be one of the biggest threats to Christians in America. And it's not because he's an atheist. In fact, he calls himself a Christian. It's because he takes scripture and he twists it in a way that God and the Bible would label as a false teacher. And if you're not careful, you can be absolutely led astray by his words and his false teachings of the Bible. Okay, let's hop into this video, watch it, and react to it. Before we do me a quick favor. Hit that like button for the algorithm so that this video can reach more people like yourself. I truly appreciate you guys. Let's hop in.
What do you think is the biblical evidence to support the opinion of being pro-abortion?
In Genesis, God creates life by breathing life into the first human being.
Support the opinion of being pro.
Reach more people like yourself. I truly appreciate you guys. Let's hop in.
What do you think is the biblical evidence to support the opinion of being pro-abortion?
In Genesis, God creates
absolutely led astray by his words and his false teachings of the Bible. Okay, let's hop into this video, watch it, and react to it. Before we do me a quick favor. Hit that like button for the algorithm so that this video can reach more people like yourself. I truly appreciate you guys. Let's hop in.
What do you think is the biblical evidence to support the opinion of being pro-abortion?
Okay, so what do you think is the biblical evidence to support being pro-abortion? That's what Joe Rogan asks James Talarico. What do you think is the biblical evidence to support being pro-abortion? There is none. But James is going to give him an answer. Let's see James' answer.
In Genesis, God creates life by breathing life into the first human being, which we later call Adam. Life starts when you take your first breath, and that is actually the mainline position in Judaism, is that that's when life starts. And then the last story I would go to is the story of Mary. Mary is probably my favorite figure in the Bible, mother of Jesus. She has a vision from God. She's going to give birth to a baby who's going to bring the powerful down from their thrones. But I say all this in context of abortion.
She's going to give birth to a baby that's going to bring the powerful down from all their thrones. Okay, so someone could say, come on, Q, like the power of evil. Like evil sat on the throne. So, don't be so critical of the guy. Not that she was going to give birth to the Savior of the world, right? Not that she was going to give birth to the slain lamb that would take on the sins of the entire human race, but that she was going to give birth to a baby that was going to remove the powerful from their thrones. I'm like, come on, man, you got to be kidding me.
Because God asks for Mary's consent. The angel comes down and asks Mary if this is something she wants to do. And she says, if it is God's will, let it be done. Let it be. So to me, that is an affirmation in one of our most central stories. Creation has to be done with consent. You cannot force someone to create. Creation is one of the most sacred acts. And to me, that is absolutely consistent with the ministry and life and death of Jesus.
He tries to use scripture to support pro-abortion by saying that life only really starts when you are outside the womb and breathing. And then he says that God breathed the life into the nostrils of Adam. And since it happened in that manner, life doesn't really start until you're actually breathing on your own outside the womb. And if you are a Christian, you know that in the book.
This is just so funny to me.
Because God asks for Mary's consent. The angel.
Now, this is where this is interesting to me, because in scripture, it doesn't say that God asks for Mary's consent. And that's what I think is very interesting. I'm like, wow, he was really bold enough to go on Joe Rogan and say that. But maybe he thinks that there's no Christians that watch Joe Rogan. I don't know. But I just think that that's very interesting, because I'm like, So I don't know what translation Mr. Talarico is reading. But yeah, if we're in the book of Luke in chapter 1 and we're talking about the birth of Jesus being foretold, and I'm in the NLT, we just simply do not see it, right? Let's see. Let's start at Luke chapter 1, verses 26 to 38. So this is not even 10 verses, more like 8. Let's see here. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee, to a virgin named Mary. She was engaged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of King David. Gabriel appeared to her and said, this is Gabriel the angel now, greetings, favored woman, the Lord is with you. Confused and disturbed, Mary tried to think what the angel could mean. Don't be afraid, Mary, the angel told her, for you have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus. Verse 31, you will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus. Gabriel doesn't say, would you like to do this? Would you like to be pregnant? Would you like to conceive? Gabriel says you will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus. He will be very great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestors David, and he will reign over Israel forever. His kingdom will never end. Mary asked the angel, but how can this happen? I am a virgin. The angel replied, the Holy Spirit will come upon you. Okay, so James Talarico is saying in verse 34, Mary asking Gabriel, but how can this happen? I am a virgin. Perhaps James is saying just off of that, the Lord is asking Mary's consent. I would say that's problematic theology, but I digress. The angel replied, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the baby to be born will be holy, and he will be called the Son of God. What's more, your relative Elizabeth has become pregnant in her old age. People used to say she was barren, but she has conceived a son and is now in her 6th month. For the word of God will never fail. Mary responded, I am the Lord's servant. May everything you have said about me come true. And then the angel left her. So maybe James Talarico is saying in verse 38, when Mary responds, I am the Lord's servant. May everything you have said about me come true. Then the angel left her. Maybe he's saying there is Mary's consent. I don't know. I would refute that, right? Because even if we're talking about, John the Baptist's dad, right? If he's not even giving consent, yet we see a little bit of an argument there with the Lord. Not argument. Let's call it disbelief. I like that word a little bit better, right? And he's just silenced. Like my man is just like, he can't speak until the baby is born, right? So I wouldn't say that in verse 38, Mary is giving consent. I would say that Mary is saying, like, I'm in agreement with what's the Lord's will for my life. If this is what the Lord wills, then may it happen. Whereas you have John the Baptist's father saying, how can this happen, right? Two very different scenarios, but this is what we have with Mr. Talarico here.
angel comes down and asks Mary if this is something she wants to do. And she says, if it is God's will, let it be done. Let it be. So to me, that is an affirmation in one of our most central stories. Creation has to be done with consent. You cannot force someone to create. Creation is one of the most sacred acts. And to me, that is absolutely consistent with the ministry and life and death of Jesus.
He tries to use scripture to support pro-abortion by saying that life only really starts when you are outside the womb and breathing. And then he says that God breathed the life into the nostrils of Adam. And since it happened in that manner, life doesn't really start until you're actually breathing on your own outside the womb. And if you are a Christian, you know that in the book of Jeremiah, God says that he knows us before we were in our mother's womb and that he had a plan for us, right? And so that would mean that life doesn't actually just start once you are outside the womb breathing on your own. In fact, life would truly start when conception initially takes place. But if you're not paying attention, or if you are mesmerized by his words and appearance and by his soft speaking, you can easily be led astray and start believing in this lie that goes strictly against the word of God and could even cause you to be led astray and start to do certain sins that are diabolical. Here's a video that I want to show you guys of a sperm and an egg meeting for the first time, and it creates this spark that made a lot of people wonder, is this what, when God is putting the spirit inside of this now person, this egg and sperm meeting together? Regardless, though, it's beautiful. And this proves that life doesn't just start outside the womb. This is where it starts. Let me show you this.
Video is under a special microscope and showing the moment of conception. The very moment that the sperm enters the egg, there is a flash of light.
Hi, we're Charity Water. If we lost you at Charity, we get it.
And the light has entered the world.
And God said, let there be light. And there was light. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world.
The Bible's all over the place.
That was really dope. I like that Aaron showed that. I want to save the rest of this for tomorrow because it is a Sunday, but I don't know. Like, I usually like to use my Sabbath. So I'm like, I'm either going to save this for you guys for tomorrow, or I'm going to bring it back on Monday along with the Marine's arm at the same time, because I'm going to play some of that to go ahead and end the live stream. I don't want to like play the clip in its entirety because Aaron's clip is like over 13 minutes. But I do want to play it when I got a couple of more people in here so they could just see it, because I think it's a really great clip. And I think just because the type of leader James Talarico I perceive him to be and what I think he's going to become, I think it's something that a lot of people should watch. So let's go to the Marine and let's see how the service member was treated. And then we're going to go ahead and end the live stream for the night.
And nobody wants to fight for Israel.
Just a reminder to all our
Commandant, please stand up as a Marine.
The Capitol Police will escort any protesters out of the hearing room.
Out! No one
We ask for
wants
calm
to fight
in these hearings.
for Israel!
His hand, his hand! Oh, his hand!
Let go. And nobody wants to fight for Israel.
So if you guys pay attention there, when he's holding it, I'm like, not only can you hear it, but you could see it. And it's kind of at that moment, I'm like, oh, it made me cringe. But it's kind of at that moment where you hear a lady saying, his hand, his hand, his hand. And so, like, if you watch, they're pulling him, and he's holding on to the door like this. And it's this part right here that you actually see bend, and you can actually hear it crack. And the only reason why I caught it is because when I was looking in the comments, someone commented, and they said you could actually hear his bone crack. So I went back and looked for it, because that's just, my brain. And I was able to find it.
Just a
a reminder to all our witnesses.
Please stand up as a Marine.
The Capitol Police will escort any protesters out of the hearing room.
Out. No one
We ask for
wants
calm
to fight
in these hearings.
for Israel. His hand, his hand. Oh, his hand. Let's go. And nobody wants to fight.
Okay, yeah, we're not watching that again. All right, so shout out to you guys for stopping by and chilling on the corner with me. We will be back for the daily live stream. I'll probably come back and hang out with you guys on Sunday just because we had to take a couple days off. Wedding anniversary, properties, traveling. So my fault, guys, right? But you guys know, other than that, we're super consistent over here. I'm definitely excited to get back into morning live streams with you guys and midday night live streams with you guys. So just shout out to everybody bearing with me, stopping by on the corner tonight, and I will see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves, take care of one another, love yourselves, love one another, be peaceful, tell somebody about Jesus.